Okay, focal length. Using a camera's focal length in Maya is a super useful tool. It has just a lot of versatility to it, and it can really change how your composition looks and feels. To get to your focal length, you're going to want to select your camera and go to the attribute editor in your camera. You can also do this by whatever panel you're on. You can go to that camera's attributes. So if I click this one, it'll go to this camera's attributes, but I want to do this one. So I'm going to click this one right here. This camera is called Perspective 1, and you can double check that by looking down here. Cool. So the focal length attribute is right here, right at the top. And this is the number one attribute I probably use when diving into the attribute editor. It's probably one of a few that I actually use, and it's super neat. So if you've never used it, focal length just changes the compression of the lens on your camera. So right now I have a focal length of 50. So it's that's like slightly compressed, but if I set this to a lower number, that's going to widen out, almost give it kind of like a fisheye effect, where you start seeing more things around the environment. And it also creates separation between things in the foreground and the background. You might be able to tell in this shot that this race car driver feels way more farther ahead than this one. But if I change it to maybe something like 60, now it feels like this guy's really fast approaching and there's not much space between them at all. This is a very powerful effect that not only cinematographers use in real life, but that I think more people need to use in animation, especially in vertical studio animation. So if we play this, let me set it back to 50 again, and we can just really quickly just look, this is how it's supposed to look. And again, I'll maybe just bring this down to like something ridiculous, like 18, and you can just see how much farther it looks. It just gives a lot of separation between these two. However, this looks kind of crazy because maybe I don't want to see these front two wheels. And this looks very long. It really elongates anything that's close to the camera. So I think I'm going to actually push in this camera right here. So that way it shows more of his face. You can see right here, we're actually experiencing some clipping. You can fix this with the near clip plane. If I set this to 1, oh, my bad, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I was thinking of the far clip plane. If you add a 0, so that was 0.01. If we add in another 0 in there, that'll make it so it has to get even closer to the geometry, 0.001 units away for it to start clipping. Anyways, that's pretty important. Let's see, I did keyframe this, so hopefully my keyframes don't mess this up, but oh, it did. But yeah, anytime you widen out your camera's focal length, it usually means you're gonna need to push in your camera a lot more to fill in on all that space. It's the same goes for if, let's go back to our attribute editor. Let's say I set this to something crazy like 80, like that. Now, all of a sudden, we need to take our camera and back it up more. But as you can see, just like our original composition, our character is taking up this right side of the screen, our left character is taking up this left side of the screen, but it's so much more compressed. You can barely see any space between our two characters. And that's the effect that I was going for when making this shot. Is the original focal length I had it was at 50, which is kind of a nice medium between the two, but it also allows for not as much separation between them to make it feel more claustrophobic and to make it seem like this guy is approaching and not as far behind as maybe a 25 focal length lens would make it look. So yeah, super useful stuff. Definitely recommend playing around with focal lengths anytime that you're messing with your camera.